The story of Lillian Rogers began not with a flame, but with a search for belonging. For many years, Lillian had navigated the winding and often impersonal corridors of the foster care system, moving from one temporary sanctuary to another. In June of 2019, just as she celebrated her 18th birthday, she reached a crossroads that many foster youth face with a mixture of hope and trepidation. It was during this pivotal summer that she met Bryson Denniston and was introduced to his parents, Jody and Robert Denniston. In an act of profound kindness and open-heartedness, the Denniston family invited Lillian to leave the residential foster care system behind and become a part of their household. For more than 2 years, the house served as a foundation for Lillian's burgeoning adulthood. Between 2019 and 2021, she dedicated herself to her studies at Stanislaus State in Turlock. Her ambition was fueled by her own history. She sought to become a social worker and provide the same guidance and support to foster youth that she had once needed. The state of California provided for her tuition, recognizing her potential to give back to the community. During this period, the Dennistons were more than just landlords. They were a support system. They provided a roof over her head. And while Lillian worked various jobs and attended school full-time, the financial arrangement remained modest. Starting in October 2020, they requested a nominal contribution of $100 per month to help cover the cost of Pacific Gas and Electric, as well as water and other utilities. Later, this amount was adjusted to $150. Lillian paid this rent faithfully, grateful for the stability the home provided. However, the tranquility of their shared life was shattered on the first day of October in 2021. A fire broke out in the garage of the family home. While the structure itself was largely saved, the consequences were devastating. Fire, smoke, and the water used by the fire department created a path of destruction that spared very few personal belongings. For Lillian, the loss was total. Every item she had ever owned, every textbook, every piece of clothing, and every memento from her journey through foster care was housed within those walls. The family was displaced, forced to move into hotels and short-term rental properties while they navigated the complex process of rebuilding their lives. The aftermath of the fire brought a different kind of heat, the friction of insurance claims and financial expectations. Lillian believed she was entitled to $6,000 for the property she lost. She had no renter's insurance of her own, a common oversight for young people who feel invincible or simply lack the resources to navigate the fine print of adult responsibilities. She relied on the Dennistons to include her losses in their homeowner's insurance claim. As the months passed and the relationship between Lillian and Bryson cooled, eventually ending in December 2022, the question of the insurance money became a point of contention. When the case finally reached the courtroom of Judge Judy, the atmosphere was thick with the weight of unspoken history and the cold reality of documentation. The judge, with her characteristic sharp eye for detail, began to unravel the threads of the dispute. Case number 3054, Rogers versus Denniston, was not just about money. It was about the definitions of loss and the boundaries of gratitude. Lillian stood before the court, explaining that she had submitted receipts to the Dennistons, believing that when the insurance company reimbursed the family, she would receive her fair share. She argued that since the family had refurnished their home and moved back in, the payout must have occurred. She presented a Google Doc form sent by the defendants, which she believed outlined what they felt she deserved. The judge, however, was focused on practicalities. She looked at the items Lillian had listed for reimbursement. Among the claims was a $13 charge for body oil moisturizer purchased in June. The judge's voice was firm but not unkind as she pointed out the impossibility of such a claim. One does not get reimbursed for personal care products used months before a fire occurred. The courtroom heard the list of items, including 4 different iPhones. Lillian explained that she had only purchased 2 of them, the most expensive models costing $2,500, and had included the others because they were part of the household account. The judge also questioned a significant purchase made after the fire. On October 29th, Lillian had bought a new iPhone Pro Max for $1,200. Lillian argued that the smoke damage had rendered her previous electronics unusable. Citing advice she claimed to have received from firemen and insurance adjusters. The judge was skeptical. If the phone worked between the date of the fire and the date of the new purchase, The necessity of a $1,200 replacement was questionable in the eyes of the law. The Denistons, represented by Jody and Robert, felt a deep sense of betrayal. They had opened their home to Lillian when she had nowhere else to go. They had treated her as one of their own, even taking her with them to the hotels and Abrams after the fire, rather than leaving her to fend for herself. They had offered her a settlement of $2,803.17, an amount calculated based on the actual cash value and depreciation determined by the insurance company. Lillian had refused the offer, holding out for the full $6,000. In the gallery, Kaylee Deniston, Bryson's sister, stood to provide testimony. She spoke of a social worker visiting Lillian after the fire and providing gift cards from the state to help replace lost items like clothing. Lillian denied receiving such assistance, claiming the only visit from a social worker had occurred months before the fire. The tension between the former friends was palpable, a sad end to a relationship that had once been built on shared shopping trips and mutual support. Judge Judy looked at the evidence and the people before her. She saw a young woman who had survived much, but had perhaps let her sense of entitlement cloud her judgment of those who had helped her. She also saw a family that was weary of being sued by someone they had once considered a daughter. The judge's ruling was based on the original offer made by the Denistons. She awarded Lillian $2,800, the amount the family had always been willing to pay. As the proceedings drew to a close, the judge offered words of wisdom that serve as a lesson for everyone in the room. She addressed the importance of renter's insurance, a small cost that provides massive protection and independence. She noted that while it is heartbreaking to lose everything, it is also important to recognize the grace of those who provide a roof over your head and a place at their table. Lillian left the courtroom with a mix of emotions. She was glad to have been awarded something, acknowledging that she could now continue to rebuild and renew her life. She remained firm in her belief that she was owed her portion, yet she expressed appreciation for everything the Denistons had done for her in the past. For Jody and Robert Deniston, the experience was a painful reminder of the complexities of human nature. Jody expressed her heartbreak, noting that her family acted out of good and helpful nature. Despite the legal battle, she vowed to continue helping others, believing that it is the right thing to do as human beings. She saw Lillian's actions as those of someone who had lost sight of the big picture, but she refused to let it harden her heart. The story concluded with a reflection on the transition into adulthood. The fire had been a literal and metaphorical trial by fire for Lillian. It taught her about the hard edges of the law, the necessity of personal responsibility, and the enduring value of gratitude. The Denistons moved forward, their home rebuilt and their spirits intact, holding on to belief that while things can be replaced, the integrity of one's character is the only possession that truly matters. In the end, the courtroom session was not just a resolution of financial debt, but an educational moment about the cost of living, the price of independence, and the quiet beauty of a helping hand. Even when that hand is eventually bitten, the lesson remained clear. Protect what you own, appreciate those who support you, and always strive to find the truth that lies between two different sides of the story.